very
Just let me
simple.
break it down. I'll break it down. If I can't break it down, then you can say, you're an idiot.
You are an idiot. So the thing.
Well, your prophet's a child molesting, murdering rapist.
What comes into play is people don't understand the notion of what the word Muslim actually, means. It's actually been Romanized, which in Arabic means to subject or submit yourself to God. Now, when you go to James chapter 4, verse 7, as the Christian brothers can actually testify for themselves, it says you should submit yourselves to God and reject the devil. Coming back, we have to understand a Muslim is the one who submits to one God, who actually submits his will to God. So he does the will of God. He follows the commandments of God. Now, when we take, for instance, Quran chapter 18, verse 110, these messengers, when they come, they tell you, you have to worship one God. Then the will of God, when we take Quran chapter 5, verse 110 to 111, we saw how Jesus submitted his will to God. Somebody like Jesus also, who is a messenger of God, submitting to the will of God. So if you go to Quran chapter 61, verse 6 of the Quran, he actually came to the children of Israel as a messenger and prophesied to them about a messenger to come after him. The concept of one God. For instance, if you go to the Bible, you go to Luke chapter 18, verse 19, where Jesus said unto him, why callest thou me good? None is good save one, that is God. You go to Mark 12, chapter 12, verse 29 to 30, and Jesus answered him, the first of all commandment is, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And so goes up to verse 30, it tells you you have to devote yourself entirely to God alone, none else. Mark chapter 12, verse 32 likewise tells you there is only one God, there's none but he. Matthew chapter 4, verse 10 likewise. Luke chapter 4, verse 8, and then John chapter 5, verse 37, where he says, and the Father who sent me, he has testified of me. You have neither heard his voice at any time nor seen his form. So Jesus has the testimony of Jesus is what God has actually given him so that he can give to the people, which I can actually see that Jesus is not God, neither is he anything people are claiming that he is God. So that means, which means he submits to a higher authority over him. John chapter 5, verse 30 clearly tells us that Jesus said, I can of my own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not my own will. So Jesus didn't come to do his own will, but the will of the Father which sent him, right? So he goes again, John chapter 12, verse 49 and 50. He says, I have not spoken of myself, but the Father which sent me, he gave me commandments, what I should say and what I should speak. So anything Jesus actually have to speak to the people is based on the commandments of God. So we can see the will of God and also the commandments of God. And then we can see also Jesus being a messenger according to John chapter 8, verse 42, and Matthew chapter 15, verse 24, I was not sent but to the lost sheep of Israel. Then Luke chapter 4, verse 43, likewise, he said unto them, I must preach the kingdom of God to the other cities. Also, therefore, I am sent. Right? And he preached in the synagogue of Galilee. So as a prophet, he is a prophet of Nazareth, according to John chapter 9, verse 17. So Luke chapter 4, verse 24, Jesus said, verily I say unto you, no prophet is accepted in his own country, just as Jesus was not accepted by his people. So the 5 criteria I gave, which Jesus falls through as a prophet, and then as a messenger, and then somebody who acts on the commandments of God, just as the verses I quoted. And then lastly, then he says, Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 to 18, think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I'm not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. So Jesus was only submitting to the will of God above, and that is why we claim he is a Muslim.
Okay, so to carry on from what peace and blessings to everybody. Carrying on from what my friend said, yes, Muslim, the etymology of the word means one who has submitted his or her will to God. So they follow and do what the will of their Lord, the God of Abraham. Jesus was not a Sunni and he was not a Shia, just like how Abraham was not a Sunni or a Shia. Now, the problem is the burden in the West is for us to define what Muslim and who Allah is, because these are words that also came up in the debate earlier. Now, if you look into Job 22:21, this is where I believe Eliphaz was addressing Job. The verse says, submit to God and be at peace with him, In Arabic, it says, Aslim lillah. وتصالح معه يأتيك خير. So, and in the Quranic terms, it would be أولئك هم المفلحون. So, but what I'm trying to explain is that this verse is apparent in the Quran, and the other thing is the word aslim, which is submit, which comes from the word Muslim. So, someone who does aslam or yuslim, someone who, sorry, in the past did aslam, he would be called a Muslim. Now, I personally don't act on my will, just like how Shu'aib doesn't act on his own will. We are called Muslims. In chapter 8, verse 2 to 4, it says, the believers are only those whom when God is mentioned, their heart are fearful, and when his verses are recited to them, they increase in faith, and they rely on their Lord, the one who establishes the litany or the prayer, and one from whom what we have provided them, they disperse. Those are the true believers. For them are degrees at their Lords. This statement alone defines Jesus' ministry and the way he conducted himself as an example for the children of Israel on how to be a believer and a submitter to God's will. So yeah, essentially the main point is that you could see a lot of what Christ taught as what a Muslim is in the Quran. So it concludes that Jesus was teaching how to be a Muslim as he was a Muslim himself, or he's a submitter.
This is actually very, very simple. According to Islam, a Muslim is someone who submits to Allah, but this is supposed to be the Allah of Islam. The Allah of Islam is the Allah that we read about in the Quran. Did Jesus submit to the Allah that we read about in the Quran? The Quran denies Jesus' sacrificial death and resurrection, but Jesus said things like, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. So Jesus is laying down his life as a ransom for others. That's Mark 10:45. And there are tons of passages on Jesus saying that he's going to die on the cross and rise from the dead. Interestingly, some of them are passages that Shu'aib was quoting, where if he just keep reading, he would see all kinds of things that completely contradicts Islam. For instance, he quoted Luke 19. If he kept reading to verses 31 to 33, he would see Jesus took the 12 aside and told them, we are going up to Jerusalem, and everything that is written by the prophets about the Son of Man will be fulfilled. He will be delivered over to the Gentiles. They will mock him, insult him, and spit on him. They will flog him and kill him. On the third day, he will rise again. I kind of don't know what to do when people keep quoting passages where if you just keep reading, it completely destroys the point they're making. But I'm just going to focus on one core issue that shows Jesus wasn't a Muslim. According to the Quran, the worst sin anyone can commit is shirk, associating a partner with Allah. Surah 19 says that the universe is about to rip apart when someone says that God has a son. It makes no sense to claim that Jesus was a devout Muslim prophet if he and everyone around him were committing the worst possible sin over and over again like a beating drum. It just doesn't make sense to call Jesus or his followers Muslims. And in Matthew 3, when Jesus comes out of the water, the Spirit of God descends as a dove, and a voice out of the heavens proclaims, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." Notice the Father and the Holy Spirit together identify Jesus as the Son of God. In Mark 14, the high priest asks Jesus at his trial, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One? Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One?" Jesus answers, "I am, and you shall see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven." They declared that this is blasphemy and that he has to be sentenced to death because of this. In John 1, John the Baptist, who was a prophet according to both Christianity and Islam, says about Jesus, "I myself have seen and have testified that this is the Son of God." In Matthew 16, Jesus asks his disciples, "Who do you say that I am?" Peter answers, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus replies and says that this was revealed to Peter by God. So according to Jesus, God is the one who reveals to you that Jesus is the Son of the living God. Even demons would call Jesus the Son of God as he was casting them out of people and they were screaming. The Father identifies Jesus as the Son of God. Jesus identifies himself as the Son of God. The Holy Spirit identifies Jesus as the Son of God. The angel Gabriel identifies Jesus as the Son of God. The prophet John the Baptist identifies Jesus as the Son of God. Jesus' apostles identify him as the Son of God. Martha identifies him as the Son of God. The Romans identify him as the Son of God. Demons identify him as the Son of God. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, pick a book over and over again. Jesus is called the Son of God, and our Muslim friends go to these very books to show that Jesus was a devout Muslim. 600 years later, Muhammad, the prophet of Islam, comes along and tells his followers that the worst possible sin anyone can commit is claiming to be the Son of God or calling someone the Son of God. So according to Islam, according to the Quran, is Jesus a Muslim, someone who submits to the Allah of the Quran? Obviously not. He's committing the worst possible sin over and over, and so were everyone around him.
What we have here is we have the meaning of Muslim that's given to us is whoever submits their will to God, whoever submits themselves to God. Well, if by that definition, if we're going with that, because I'm going to show you how ambiguous this is. One of the best Muslims, according to this definition, that I could ever think of is Paul the Apostle. Paul, being a Pharisee, knew the scriptures, believed in the scriptures, submitted to the scriptures, submitted to God so much with so much zeal that he went after those who he thought were not submitting to the will of God and committing shirk against God by claiming that Jesus is the divine Messiah who died for our sins and rose again on the third day. I submit to him in his revelations. I submit to his books, his commands. I am a Muslim. David, you're a Muslim. The 1,300 people in this chat who are monotheists who submit their will to God, you're Muslims. So that's how ambiguous this is. And I don't think that they would agree with this. It's believing and submitting to a particular concept of God that we find described in the Quran. The God who has no children, has no partners. You know what I'm saying? The God who is not a Trinity, the God who is absolutely singular in his essence, a singular person. That's the God that you have to submit to in order to be a Muslim specifically. If that's really the definition, then let's see if Jesus, the Jesus of Nazareth, the first century Jew, the Messiah, historically lines up with that concept of God. Did he submit to the God who has no sons, this idea that Jesus is a Muslim? And it's mind-boggling because the verses that they quote, as David said, literally destroy their position. Like, for example, but earlier in Mark 12, starting at verse 1 to about 10, it goes like this. He says, the vineyard owner sends his servants, who are the prophets, to the people that he loaned the land to, which is Jerusalem, which is Israel, the Jews. But they kept killing his servants. They kept killing the prophets. But then it says here, yet he still had one to send. And it says here, a beloved son. So notice that the son is distinct from the servants. My beloved son, finally, he sent to them saying, they will respect my son. But those tenants said to one another, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him. What will the owner of the vineyard do? He will come and destroy the tenants and give the vineyard to others. So Jesus, referring to himself, is the son who is distinct from the servants, the prophets, who is the heir of the Father, of God, the heir of all things. So Jesus is identifying himself as the owner of the prophets, the one who inherits all things, creation and all. And this is who Jesus is saying he is in Mark 12. Can you be a Muslim and claim that God is your father, that Allah is your father? Can you be a Muslim and claim that you are the son of Allah, the inheritor of Allah, the one who will receive all things that Allah owns, and that you, including the prophets, that you own the prophets? So we're showing how ambiguous this definition of Muslim was given to us. If we narrow it down, we know it's specifically about the Islamic God. They said it. We didn't quote these. They did. They said Jesus submits his will to the Father in John chapter 5. Absolutely, it's true. But guess what else he says? He says that the Father shows the Son all things that he does. So there's nothing that the Father does without the Son. Does Allah ever work alone? Guess what else Jesus says? that whatever the Father does, that the Son does also. In John 5, he says that all may honor the Son just as they honor the Father. So my question would be, how do you honor Allah? Is it through worship? Is it through supplication? Jesus says that you have to honor him the same way you honor Allah. Is that Islamic? I don't think so.
Now, Avery, I want to put it back a little bit. You said that the term Muslim is ambiguous. Yes, it is very ambiguous, especially in the Quran. So he never says all Muslims, because it is an ambiguous verse, ambiguous meaning where it covers many people. You're actually correct in the definition where anyone who is submitting to a monotheistic Lord, because there is only one God. So you want to play around with the words like Father and Allah as if they're not equal, even though you have your definition of what a father is. There's only one entity that created the skies and the earth. It created this entity. He created the human. He understands the human. He told the human, do this and don't do that. That is the Lord that we submit to. But this Lord that I defined is the Lord of Abraham. And anyone who submits to this Lord of Abraham, but it doesn't change how many gods there is. There's only one. So yes, you are right. You and David, if you are submitting to the Lord of the skies and the earth, created this world, you by definition is a Muslim. Okay, and then you went into a specific to prove.
One second. I just wanted to ask for a couple of clarifications because I do want to understand. I do want to understand your point before you move on to another one. But so you're saying that we, in your definition of Muslims as people who submit to God, that we would be, Avery and I would be Muslims. Just to clarify, I'm assuming you're going to say yes. But Sunnis, Shias, Sufis, these would all be Muslims and that they are submitting to God, but you would believe they're misguided in certain ways, but they would all be Muslims, right?
They're Muslims, but they're not believers. They have not entered the faith and the belief. They've submitted that there's a God, but they're going to do whatever they want. So there's people that disbelieve there is no God. That's an atheist. That's a person that did not submit this as a criminal. And there's people that understand that God exists, but they want to purposely devout the way outside of the way of God. Those are devils. But then the submitter is, there's a God, there's a day of judgment. That's where it stands.
So you would say, so regarding us, would you say that we are Muslims but not believers?
You're a Muslim you're not believers, and you have concepts of shirk. God never refers to you as mushrikun. God refers to you as people who committing disbelief. When you're saying that Jesus is the Son of God, you're committing disbelief. But he never said you are a mushrik, because a mushrik is much bigger than that concept.
I think it's interesting. You're a Muslim, I'm a Muslim, we're all Muslims. You know, it's a Muslim party here. So you said, like, you know, for those who say that Jesus is the Son of God, that they are we're disbelievers for saying that, but we're still Muslims. So my question is according to the verses that you quoted, is Jesus, he's a Muslim, but he's a disbeliever?
Avery, to answer you very quickly, do you submit that God is controlling this world?
No. That doesn't answer my. That doesn't answer my question.
I am going to answer your question. I'm asking you simply yes or no. No, I'm telling you. So when you're claiming that Jesus said that he is the begotten Son of God, that is not something that Jesus would say.
I didn't. Okay, so let's pause here for a second. I'm talking about the verses you quoted to prove to us in our Bible that Jesus is a Muslim. So I'm not talking about what you think is corrupted. I'm talking the parts that you quoted as if they're not corrupted. So
then you're talking to Shaib. I quoted only two verses, 5:30 and 22:21.
Exactly. And you said out of your mouth, I heard you, it's recorded in your verses, you read that Jesus submits his will to the Father as he hears, he judges, and he submits his will to the Father. So Jesus in John 5:30, in John chapter 5 says he's the Son of God and he submits to his Father. I'm going to ask again. So according to the verses you quoted, is Jesus a Muslim but a disbeliever?
Jesus has said he submitted his will. People saying that he's the begotten Son of God, that is something that Jesus did not say.
No. Let me clarify this, Avery, because I think he's missing the point. So he's not saying what you believe or what Islam teaches. Avery is asking, since you quoted John chapter 5 verse 30, and that's where Jesus says that everything that the Father does, he does, and that you have to honor the Son the same way you honor the Father. Avery is asking, is Jesus in this passage a Muslim but not a believer? Because he's saying that he's the Son and you have to honor him the same way.
But Dave, Mohammed, wait, Dave, the John chapter 5 verse 30 doesn't say what you just said. That's not the verse we used. So what point are you making from that?
Okay, so it's very simple.
Wait. Didn't Muhammad say he brought up John 5:30?
So
we're not saying that. We're asking about according to the passage.
1 minute, David. We're quoting the things that are aligning with the truth, and the things that are not aligning with the truth, we are here to help you correct it with the criterion, which is the Quran. So
that's why we're saying, we're not saying, we know you believe that Jesus said other things. We're saying, according to this passage, would the person who is saying these things, saying that he does whatever the Father does, someone who says that he's the one who raises the dead at the resurrection, someone who says that that you have to honor him the same way you honor the Father, where he says that he is the final judge of all mankind, would a person who said these things in this passage be a Muslim but not a believer?
I'll bring you back to an earlier debate where we had, where I
yes
told you
no,
Jesus can speak in the first person. And then the other thing is, just like how you're saying there's ambiguity with how the Son is defined.
Yes or no?
Define 1 second.
Dude, it's very simple, man. We didn't ask you all of that. We don't need the fluff. Seriously. Answer the question.
Yeah, but by your
this
question, some questions.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like I can't do this. Dude,
Do what?
it's very simple. What David asked you and what I asked you. It's super simple. According to
do
the
you take
text,
the gospel 100% or just a little bit? That's what you're saying.
It's very simple. Please, it's very, very simple. Is this person who's claiming to be the Son of the Father, who can do whatever the Father does, and is honored the same way the Father is honored, who raises the dead and judges at the day of judgment, is that person a Muslim but not a believer? Yes or no?
He's not a Muslim.
Thank you.
Whoa,
beautiful.
Jesus in John chapter 5 is not a Muslim, but you quote John chapter 5 to show that Jesus is a Muslim.
All right, thank you. So look, so both of you just said that Allah is not a father in any sense. So it doesn't matter in what sense Jesus claims to be the Son, whether it's begotten, whether it's allegorical, in any sense, if you claim to be the Son of Allah, you're not a Muslim. I'll land my point there because I'll let you guys, you do your thing. You guys just cooked yourselves, man.
No, we didn't. This is how retarded you was the person in the whole thing, just like how the prophet in the hadith, is that Muhammad? Absolutely. Is the person that's quoted completely in John, the one that they're quoting, was that Jesus in his entirety? Yes or no?
No, he's not.
Hey, ooh, we win! Wow, we got
it. Of course, they know that. They know that. They are trying
That's
to play
how stupid you sound, Avery.
No.
The person that is completely in the John that you're quoting, that is not Jesus completely speaking. And this is what you're doing earlier. Oh, so the person that's in Sahih Muslim, is that not the prophet then? If I said no, we won.
Exactly.
We won, because you're dumb.
Here's the points we're trying to make. So in response to our discussion of John 5:30, Shuaib pointed out, he went to John 20, where Jesus says, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. So notice, even the verse itself, you guys both agreed would not be Islamic, and yet you're quoting it to defend your point that Jesus was a Muslim. But it's even crazier if you keep reading.
No.
Yes, I'll read whatever I want. In verse 22, same passage, a couple verses later, it says Jesus breathed on them and said, receive the Holy Spirit. Oh my goodness, that ties in with the last debate. But then just a few verses after that, a week later, his disciples were in the house again and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came in and stood among them and said, peace be with you. Then he said to Thomas, put your finger here, see my hands, reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting, Shuaib and Muhammad, and believe. Thomas said to him, my Lord and my God. Our point is that you keep quoting passages to show that Jesus is a Muslim, and if you simply keep reading, there's no way he's a Muslim. So you're saying, but the one verse that we agree with, that's the real Jesus, but the rest of it, which completely contradicts Islam, no, that's all just made up. That's not Jesus.
Right,
Notice,
we
passage
pushed
after
it.
passage after passage, you quote, and
Aaron.
literally all you have to do is read before it or after it, and it shows that Jesus
David,
can't possibly be
you're
Muslim,
ridiculous.
according to
We'll
you.
go over
How
to-
many times in the Bible have you put the prophets in a light that is not true? So Aaron said that he built a
Different
cow
top. Notice,
for
changing the
people-
topic.
No, I'm not changing
Building
the
a
topic.
cow.
I'm showing you the
Aaron
consistent-
building a cow, everyone.
But guys,
So you don't agree with that?
your book of authority, you've taken verses and other books out of your books.
We're only
And-
quoting
look,
what you said.
look,
You
no,
said it.
no,
You
let's
said,
hear-
here's the
let's-
chapter.
you are-
We
Let's
go
hear
with
from Shuaib.
Wait. You are taking our words out of context. Like I keep saying,
That's
this is
ironic,
a game of
David.
semantics.
How ironic.
We're
What-
taking
what-
them out
what
of
ironic?
context,
Well,
Avery.
Oh, so you are doing the same thing, huh? Okay. So the
So
point is,
we're only
No.
doing to you what you do to Jesus. That's all.
okay, you let me speak.
Yeah,
up, let me speak
they're
up.
giving verses, and we're
It's
quoting
okay,
the
let me speak
context.
up.
Let's hear from.
Let me
Okay,
speak,
let's
let me
give it
speak.
full 60
you're
seconds
right.
to Shuaib.
Yeah.
So what we are doing is when we quote passages from your book, we are quoting passages and showing you if we have to use logic to understand the concept you have in your book. By that logic, this is how A falls in the criteria of being a Muslim, a submitter to God. But you are taking all the chunks you have, which you know some verses in your book are interpolated. They are not from God, neither are they from Jesus. They are people's opinions. You are trying to add up to make a point. We are not using people's opinions in your book. We are quoting passages where Jesus is making references about who God is or what he is here to do.
Notice how we never quoted a single passage or talked about a single passage that you didn't quote yourself. We're only using the context of the passage that you use. That's it. So it's
No,
if you
not
want,
true.
if you're
Not
trying
true.
to say, sorry, if you're trying to say that we're taking your words out of context, bro.
Dave said I quoted.
This
He
is
said,
like you might as well just not say anything. How about this? Don't quote the Bible anymore. Just give up on the Bible. Just admit that according to the Bible, Jesus is not a Muslim, and try to use something else to prove it. Because you can't. According to the Bible and the passages
Look.
you guys go to, you've already admitted Allah's not a father. A Muslim can't call Allah a father and be a Muslim. Jesus says that he's the son of God, and so therefore he can't be a Muslim. According to the passages y'all quote. So stop quoting the Bible.
Because I have a criterion, which is on his desk right there. I compare it to what the Quran says, and the Quran supersedes the lies. Now, if you say that David is the son of God, so David is also the first and last. And
A
then
son of
Abraham
God.
also submitted. And then so Abraham also submitted
explain
to
that.
David. And that David, I don't need your explanation.
Don't
If
let
you're
him-
going
Yeah,
by
you.
the
Yes, you
consistency of
do.
what the son
You
of-
absolutely do, because you have no clue what you're
don't.
talking about right now, and I can clarify it for you. You can walk away more knowledgeable than when you walked into this discussion.
No,
I can break it
David,
down.
it's very
Just let me
simple.
break it down. I'll break it down. If I can't break it down, then you can say, "Ah, you're an
it's
idiot."
very- you are an idiot. So the thing
Well,
is,
your
somebody
prophet's
is saying-
your prophet's a child molesting, murdering rapist.
It has all sorts of good. It has fish in it, and it.
Okay.
It's true.
So
And can
Yeah.
you please take the words back you said about my prophet? Because I didn't insult any of your
no.
prophets.
And it.
I was only reacting to name calling. So
Yes.
if we're agreeing we're not doing that, yes, I take it back.
And it shifts that it.
So you said to forget everything in the passages. You literally called it all that other nonsense. So we're only going to stick to the passages you quote. You said that you use your Quran as a criterion. So where in your Quran does it say that John 5:30 is Jesus speaking?
based on your question, doesn't mean we should give you direct answer based on the way you are questioning.
So I'm going only with Muhammad's criteria of hermeneutics, of exegesis. I'm going with Muhammad. So he said, get rid of all the other verses, only focus on the passages that we quoted. So he quoted only John 5:30, which he said. So tell me again, who is the one speaking who says, as I do nothing of my own, as I hear, I judge? Who is speaking?
God Logic, I think you are misunderstanding what I'm saying. Is that when I am taking a document and I'm reading the document in its entirety, whether it's theology or outside of theology, even if it's the American Constitution, I go put it back to my criterion, which is the Quran. So that means if the verses that are applying with the Quran, I will substitute that and I will accept from it. And the things that do not align with the Quran, I will overlook them.
I know. So I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna let David take the next point. Who in the world is Jesus saying that he submits his will to? The Father. Who is he saying that he hears from? The Father, according to the context. So even John 5:30 proves that Jesus was not a Muslim based on the context. So you shouldn't quote it. Since the Quran is the criterion, John 5:30 should be out. That's my only point. You just helped me with that.
I keep reading. I already pointed it out. The same passage identifies Jesus as Lord and God.
Jesus said unto her, touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. Now,
Not Islamic.
If you base on this logic of this verse, it clearly shows that Jesus is not claiming to be the begotten Son of God. So it's just a figment of speech. It doesn't necessarily mean he is the Son of God, as you guys are claiming.
All right, let me go and answer that. So if you kept reading in the same passage, if you keep reading in the same passage, that's where you have just verse 28, just a few verses after what you quoted. Thomas said to him, my Lord and my God. Jesus told them, because you have seen me, you have believed. He counts this as belief, calling him my Lord and my God. In the Bible, God is Father, and people can be sons of God in different senses. I'll go ahead and clarify them for you so you understand. Human beings in general are called children of God or offspring of God in a similar sense to what you guys were talking about earlier in the previous debate, where we all come from God. So human beings in general can be called children of God. That's Acts chapter 17. And so in that sense, we can all be, you guys are sons of God. Second, spirit beings are called sons of God. This is in Job 1. Angels are called sons of God. Third, the nation of Israel is called God's son because God produces the nation. So he's the father of the nation. Fourth, the reigning Davidic king, so King David and those who were king after him, his descendants, they were called sons of God because they were put on the throne by God and they were to rule under God's authority. So you have different senses in which God is a father, and you have different senses in which we are the sons of God. What we're pointing out is there is a son who is the son of God in a very special sense, similar to what Avery was pointing out earlier with the parable of the vineyard, where prophets come along, but then finally the son comes and he's the one who inherits everything and has authority over everything. Jesus isn't saying, hey, I'm the son of God in just in the sense that other people are the sons of God. He's saying that he's the son. You can't honor the Father unless you honor the Son by treating him the same way you treat the Father. This is where Jesus claims that he is going to raise the dead at the resurrection. This is where he claims that he's the final judge. So he's claiming to be in a special sense. So you can't say, well, Jesus says he's the Son of God. There's other sons of God. Therefore, it's all the same sense. It's not. The Bible's clear on this. This is not difficult.
You can't be like, oh, well, keep reading God. No, he's a submitter. He submitted his will to God. That's what your verses say. But you're debating which God did he submit to. That's not the point of the debate.
But here's the point. When you look in the Bible and you see that God is a father in many different senses, this proves that it's not talking about Allah, which you guys are agreed is not a father in any sense. So please do not lose that point. So you just proved to us that the God of the Bible, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God that Jesus says is his own father, the God that revealed himself to David and Moses and all of them, claims to be a father in some sense. And therefore, none of these prophets are talking about the same God that you're talking about. So according to your definition of Muslim, they're Muslims, but not believers. Jesus is a Muslim, but not a believer. But Shoaib said, nah, this Jesus in John 5 is not a Muslim. So I think that you guys handed this over to us on a silver platter, man.
Let me say very simply, anybody that says he's a son of God or he's a God, he is not a submitter and he's a heretic. Right?
Okay, so Jesus,
one second, let me finish the fucking.
In the passages you quote, okay.
Jesus is not a submitter and he's a heretic, David.
Yeah, there you go.
Alhamdulillah, we just
Go ahead,
want to
go ahead,
debate.
Muhammad.
Debate,
I wanna
debate
give Muhammad a
over,
chance to finish
debate
the point.
You're
over.
making a straw
It's
man,
over.
but this is
When you guys get a chance, clip the part earlier in the beginning in their opening statements when they were reading out these verses, and Muhammad himself said, based on John 5:30,
John 5:30. I can of my own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not my own will, but the will of the Father, which has sent me. So it's very clear that Jesus has submitted his will back to God, and he's doing the will of the Lord. We are called Muslims.
see, Jesus submitted his will to the Father. He's a Muslim. You, out of your own mouth, said that he submits his will to the Father. So guess what? According to you, Muhammad, Jesus is not a submitter. The Jesus you presented to us is not a submitter. He's a heretic, and he's not a Muslim. The debate is over. I don't know what even we're doing
Avery,
here
I'm
right
using.
now.
Let me say very simply: anybody that says he's a son of God or he's a God, he is not a submitter, and he's a heretic.